It is wild to me how ever since the world found out about how wealthy the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is, it seems like every person on social media has become a financial expert on how the church should spend its money, and it should spend more money on humanitarian work and less on temples.
You mean after David Nielsen, the whistleblower, a faithful former church employee, revealed that the LDS Church lied to both the federal government and its own tithing members for literally decades? You mean after the church paid a $5 million fine for illegal financial disclosure practices? A slap on the wrist for an entity hoarding nearly $400 billion? Jasmine, you don't need to be Warren Buffett to recognize that creating 13 shell companies to hide assets from regulators and the public is shady as hell. We're not suddenly financial experts. We're just regular members who know that when a church has enough money to buy the moon, but spends less than a penny per dollar on humanitarian work, the proper response isn't reverence. It's outrage.
Last year alone, the church spent $1.45 billion on humanitarian projects.
Oh, Jasmine, bless your trusting little heart. That figure is pure, unverified PR fluff. The church is notorious for refusing independent audits and doesn't publicly release financial statements. So that $1.4 billion claim, it's not evidence, it's an assertion. It's about as trustworthy as a seer stone in a hat. But let's suspend disbelief just for a moment and take that number at face value. Even then, less than half of 1% of the church's estimated total assets is being given to charity. Imagine being worth $400 billion and handing out spare change while bragging like you're solving world hunger. That's not generosity. It's gaslighting. You're confusing accounting tricks with altruism.
We don't know how much they spent on temples, but considering we dedicated 27 temples in 2024 with 52 temples in progress that year, I'm sure that number is large.
You're right, it is absolutely large, enormously, absurdly large. And thanks to independent researchers at the Widow's Mite report, we don't have to guess. They estimate that average temple construction costs are around $30 to $50 million per building, with high-end builds pushing $100 million. Multiply that by the dozens of temples under construction, and you're looking at $200 million or more annually, and that's just for construction. Now add in maintenance and operations, utilities, landscaping, staffing, which falls within the church's overall facilities budget of around $700 million per year. Conservative estimates for temples alone, well, that would be $300 to $400 million annually. That's about 20 to 30% of what the church allegedly spends on humanitarian aid, and it all goes to support temples that most of the planet's population will never step foot in. Priorities, right? Jasmine, if you want more accurate info about your own religion's finances, stick around, like and subscribe. I'll catch you up.
If you take Latter-day Saint beliefs seriously, we believe that the temple is the house of the Lord, and it deserves the best workmanship, just like the biblical temple of ancient Israel.
This comparison falls apart faster than a Book of Mormon timeline under archaeological scrutiny. Solomon's temple in the Old Testament was more of a glorified tent than a Vegas resort. The original LDS temple rites were performed in the upstairs room of a humble red brick store in Nauvoo, not a $100 million marble-laden megastructure with Swarovski chandeliers. Let's not forget about the endowment house in early Utah, literally just a modest wooden building in Salt Lake City, Utah. All of these early Mormon spaces were considered holy enough to do God's work, but now we're building temples with imported African wood, Italian marble, and gilded spires so that Russell M. Nelson can leave a legacy of spiritual opulence. Let's be real. The extravagance has nothing to do with God and everything to do with ego.
But more importantly, maybe, we seriously believe that the covenants we make are eternal rights that persist after death and can only be administered in these dedicated sacred spaces.
Boy, that's cute, Jasmine, but let's hit pause for a second. Unless you can provide verifiable evidence that dead people are waiting in spirit lines for secret handshakes to enter a celestial gated community, your argument is theological fan fiction. In the meantime, there's millions of living, breathing humans who don't have enough to eat, lack clean drinking water, or who are dying from preventable diseases. And your church is over here buying cattle farms in Australia and suing tiny towns over zoning ordinances so it can build temples in places with 12 members and a cactus. Until there's proof that secret tokens and culty handshakes are required for salvation, how about we redirect those billions to alleviating human suffering and, actually saving human lives?
And so if we want these ordinances to be accessible to everyone, there is an urgency for us to build these sacred houses of the Lord so that we can bring it to them.
But here's the thing, even if we accepted your faith claims at face value, your own theology contradicts this supposed urgency. Mormon doctrine teaches that all temple ordinances will be completed during the millennium, 1,000 years of temple work after Jesus returns and sets up shop in Jackson County, Missouri. Now, there's no clock ticking down on temple ordinances, honey. No souls are being left out in the cold because you didn't finish a celestial checklist this week. You know what is urgent though? Helping people now. Using the church's absurd wealth to alleviate global suffering would be far more Christ-like than pouring hundreds of millions into granite palaces that sit empty most of the time.
To learn more, read this brand new Gospel Topics article on the church's website on church finances.
Jasmine, I've read the article. It's about as informative as a Sunday school manual on thermonuclear physics. It's vague, it's indefensible, and it cherry picks just enough data to appease the faithful without actually answering any hard questions. It glosses over the Ensign Peak scandal, ignores the fake shell companies, and treats the $5 million in fines like a clerical hiccup. It doesn't provide any audits, no disclosures, no accountability, just more pious PR spin dressed up in correlated language. And here is my prediction for you. You're not going to address any of the actual concerns that I just raised, because that's what pseudo-apologists do. Dodge the evidence and redirect to gospel topic essays. But trust me, Jasmine, I've already read the manual and the footnotes, and I came prepared.
Hey folks, Joe Biden here. Thanks for watching Mormon News Roundup. My good friend D. Vase is truly doing the Lord's work. No joke. Remember, no unhallowed hand can stop the Mormon News Roundup from progressing. Like, subscribe, and stay informed. That's a fact, Jack.